Russia is a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma. Sir Winston Churchill, when he said that about Russia, he was absolutely right. To understand Russia's current actions, you've got to understand its people and its society. But that's difficult. There isn't much information, true information about the inside of Russia, how it works on the inside is available to a person on the outside of Russia. If you look at the information that's given about Russia outside of Russia, you'll find a pretty flat and hard to understand picture. What I'm trying to do is to give you information from the very inside Russia, so you understand the country more, and therefore you understand Russian society, how it works, and the changes that have been happening to it. In today's stream, I'd like to tell you the story of Russian oligarchs. Who are they? How powerful and rich are they? Are they still calling the shots in Russia? Are they telling Putin what to do? What you will learn today will most likely surprise you. So let's take a closer look into the rise and fall of Russian oligarchs. Howdy, howdy, friends. My name is Konstantin, and welcome to Inside Russia, where usual Russia is explained by the unusual Russian. What you will not find on this channel is BS, propaganda and lies. What you will find here is truth, common sense and logic, and some emotions, because I am a human being. And today you will find a great deal of information about Russian oligarchs, the uber rich people who are, well, let's talk about it. First things first, why am I talking about Russian oligarchs? Why do I think it's important? Because it is important. Russian oligarchs are uber rich, a force of money buying power and political influence. They are considered a counterbalance to Vladimir Putin and his army of Siloviki, those who can legally use force against Russian citizens. And I've heard this opinion, that's very important, this opinion that Russian oligarchs can stage a coup d'etat and overthrow Putin because of the war in Ukraine has been hurting them tremendously. Their Western assets have been, getting confiscated. They can't dock their yachts anywhere, but in Russia, their bank accounts are getting frozen. They're becoming personas non grata in many countries. They can't travel. They can't fly their planes. They, poor people, So could that move them to actually do something to change the regime, and that could be the end of the war? Do I believe it? To answer this, we've got to understand who the oligarchs are and their role in today's Russia, current day Russia. Well, everyone has heard of Russian oligarchs. Russian novarish, people who acquired riches fast but did not acquire taste and good manners. Obnoxious, rude, bold, uncultured, sometimes cruel, and incredibly rich, never counting money. That's a public image of Russian oligarch, give or take. Oligarchy is actually a Greek word. In ancient Greece, oligarchy meant the power of the few. And the Greek were very right. The power. Remember that. I'll get to that at the end of the message. The power. Russian oligarchs were born in the late USSR, in the late 80s, believe it or not. The communist state was falling apart, and Gorbachev's perestroika brought people a right to do business, small business usually. Very few Soviet people were caught to do business, but they were few. Rare ones with energy, drive, and desire to seize the opportunity and get rich, and most of those were, guess who? The members of Komsomol, organization, Young Communists, Komsomol members were given rights to establish so-called youth centers for technical scientific activities. Have you heard of Mikhail Khodorkovsky? Most likely you have. He's probably, along with Alexei Navalny, the most famous Russian opposition persona. So he was a founder of one of the first and biggest centers, such centers, and he was the member of Komsomol, of course, in the 80s, young communist, so to speak. And that center, that organization, that company was how he made his first millions. Basically, such centers were companies trading anything tax-free. Shortages of everything in the late 80s, and those centers allowed to import anything from abroad, to trade, to buy, sell. You understand what's going on here? That's money, the smell of money, By 1991, there were already some rich people in the USSR. Not oligarchs, but rich. Much, much richer than your average Russian person. Then the USSR fell apart and it was fair game for anyone. People started doing trade, big and small. I'll give you an example. The first years. The year is 1992. Everyone wants to make a buck, but the only two ways that people know at that time is to buy at one place and sell it at another place for, higher price. And it was called trading, and people who were doing it were called entrepreneurs or traders. The second way was to get into a group of a few strong men, get a gun, and take away what traders were making. It was called mafia. Two ways. I got a taste of that at a very young age. I was still attending high school. I think I was 1 year from graduation, 1992, and I traded cigarettes. I don't smoke, I've never smoked, I haven't even tried smoking. But I saw an opportunity back in 1992. It was summertime, vacation, I desperately, school vacation. I desperately wanted to make some money and help my parents, so I went to a cigarette factory. Cigarette factory knew how to manufacture cigarettes, but they didn't know how to package and sell them because it had never been required in the USSR. So you would walk into a factory and there would be tons of cartons of cigarettes, and you could buy a carton, you could buy a box, you could buy a few cigarettes, depending on how much money you had. They had a counter right there at the warehouse, And we would buy a carton, and the factory was at the other side of the city. We would travel back home to our local neighborhood, and we would go to a bazaar, a local market, where everyone was standing, selling everything. And we would sell cigarettes by one, individually. And we would charge more. And of course, mafia people would come and we'd give them some of our profits. And that's how I first was introduced to mafia, and that was a normal, absolutely normal situation in the 90s. And this is how I was making peanuts, literally, because for what I made every day, I could buy some peanuts. But that was great because in any way I helped my parents. I was still attending high school. Then there was another way. They were bigger players. If people had more money, and small company, for example, they bought small vans of cigarettes, tons of boxes, and they negotiated better price because they bought wholesale. They sold those cigarettes to old Soviet-style stores that still existed, and the stores usually marked 10% up, and the rest that they would give to people who brought the cigarettes. So people were making money, but they were small potatoes, but still they were making decent money. People like, I were like parents of my friends, that type of social circles. Not super rich, but at least making some money to live on. And then there were people like Khodorkovsky who traded everything, cigarettes, jeans, computers, cars, at huge quantities. I'm talking like millions of boxes. They used the advantage, the capital, the money that they had made, previously. And they also started acquiring manufacturing plants through the federal program of Soviet asset privatization. But they weren't oligarchs in the early 90s. They were very rich, but not oligarchs. So rich people who made themselves rich, because, hey, I give it to them. They had energy, they had smarts, they started making money in the 80s. They got a fast start. But the oligarchs that we know today, they did not appear until 1996. Boris Yeltsin actually was the father of Russian oligarchy and the Russian oligarchs. Boris Yeltsin was the first president of Russia. First 5 years in young Russia were incredibly challenging, very hard, very cruel. There were both objective and subjective reasons for that. You see, you cannot change economy of a huge country like the USSR overnight. Communism into capitalism instantly? No, it does not work that way. It takes years and years. And the government can and should help that process by implementing different economic policies, changing legislation, changing rules, changing norms, helping businesses, promoting, doing some support programs and so forth. Normal government. But not the Russian government. It was faulty right at the start in the early 90s. Boris Yeltsin, well, let's be honest here, he drank, he was an alcoholic, he was barely sober, and there was no leadership in the government. And people didn't like that. They didn't like anything in the first years of young Russia. So in the early 96, Yeltsin's approval rating was 2%. 2%. He was bound to lose in the upcoming presidential elections in the late summer of 96 to the leader of the Communist Party, old good commies, Gennady Zyuganov, buddy of Putin now, by the way. One of the deputies of presidential chief of staff had a brilliant idea and energy to make it happen. He invited rich people for a very close meeting, secret meeting, and people like Mikhail Khodorkovsky, Boris Berezovsky, Mikhail Friedman, Petr Ravin, those who owned banks and had significant capital. And the deal was made. The rich were to finance Boris Yeltsin's presidential campaign to have him re-elected using any means and technologies possible at the time. In exchange, they were promised a very precious reward: their oligarchy. The riches beyond their wildest dreams, the biggest and the most lucrative enterprises that Russia, Russian state, Russian government still owned in 1996. Well, technically Russian people still own them. The oil companies, the refineries, the chemical plants, the mines, of rare metals and, all kinds of stuff. The telecom company that owned all countries' communications. Imagine this magnitude of the riches. If you could get one of those companies, like how rich you'd become. So the rich did it. They had Yeltsin reelected. There's a very good American movie, came out in the late 90s. It's just about that, how Yeltsin was being re-elected, and it's called Spinning Boris, and I recommend you go ahead and watch it. That's a good movie. I watched it. It was really what was happening in 1996. So Boris Yeltsin was re-elected. Right after the Collateral, after the re-election, the very important milestone in Russian history happened. The Collateral auctions. The Collateral auctions. Залоговые аукционы. The birth of Russian oligarchs. Each rich man who had invested into Yeltsin's presidential campaign and helped him get reelected had a bank. So each bank issued Russian government a loan. As a collateral, Russian government gave big state enterprises, like I said, oil companies, big mines, chemical plants, collateral for a loan. The conditions of such loans were that if Russian government defaulted loans, then banks would own the collateral property. And of course, Russian government defaulted every single loan, and it was done on purpose, obviously. So Boris Berezovsky and Roman Abramovich, just giving you a few examples, got majority ownership of an oil company called Sibneft, valued of about $3 billion American dollars for $100 million loan. And those 100 millions they had borrowed from Russian central bank. So it wasn't even their money. For example, Mikhail Khodorkovsky got majority ownership of another oil company. Back then it was called Yukos, for 160 million American dollars. At the time it was valued around $2.8 billion. So they basically got huge assets for cents, for pennies on a dollar. And that's how Russian oligarchs were born. That was the source of big, huge Russian capital. Could it be done differently? You bet. Was it done legally? Well, technically, according to the current laws, that day's laws, things were done legally, okay? But was it done right? Was it done morally? No, of course not. Could it be done differently? You bet. European countries did privatization because they were facing the same problem. So they did their own privatizations of state-owned properties differently. And look where those countries are now. East Germany, well, became part of Germany. Poland, Czech Republic, Hungary, etc. Russia could have done the same thing, but it did what it did. So guess what newly minted oligarchs started doing? They must have gotten drunk on money, okay? Because imagine that, out of the blue, for nothing, getting a company that is worth $3 billion and, generates revenues every month of huge amounts. So what do? It's just like you go crazy. So they started buying power. Buying power, my friends. Remember in the beginning of the stream, I said the Greek word, the power of the few, the power of the few. So those people got money, but that was not enough. They started buying power, buying TV stations, buying newspapers, buying politicians, buying more businesses. Money for nothing, okay? Imagine you have in the 90s, you have a huge company that generates you tens, perhaps hundreds of millions of dollars every single month. What do? Buying galore. You see, back then, money was power. You could buy power with money. If you had money, you could buy anything. Political leaders, politicians. You could buy government, you could buy police, you could buy KGB, anything. Because you had the money, they had nothing. They did not have power over you, and you had power over them with your money. That was the 90s. That was the oligarchs before Putin. Well, guess what happened soon? All those oligarchs did not get along for a long time. Well, they did get along for a short time, for a few months, but then they started feuding with each other. Russia became a sandbox, and it became too small for them because they became hugely rich. They placed themselves on the Forbes lists, They started feuding with each other. Greed, my friends, according to Gordon Gekko, is good, but guess what? He was wrong. Greed is not good. Greed became was the reason of the fall of the Russian oligarchs. As the result of such feuds, between Yeltsin's family, for example, and backed by a few oligarchs and Boris Berezovsky. There was a feud between them and Moscow Mayor Lushkov, who was an oligarch by himself and an old communist, a member of Soviet Politburo, Vladimir Primakov. Okay, as a result of such feud, in the late 1999, Vladimir Putin became the president of Russia. He was supposed to be a puppet, a protector of oligarchs' assets and riches, and that was the plan. That's what oligarchs who actually appointed Putin to the position of the president, this is what they wanted for him to be. They wanted him to protect their properties, money, assets, they should have known. I mean, a former KGB operative, they put him into the helm of the country, thinking that he's going to be a puppet. They should have known better. I'm telling you. That was beginning of the end of Russian oligarchs. Vladimir Putin used old KGB techniques to become powerful. First, he got control of Russian TV channels almost instantly after he became the president. He started getting control of biggest and most popular Russian TV stations, newspapers, and government offices, government branches. The vertical of power was born. Putin started building his vertical of power, making good old weak KGB powerful and strong again, placing it as a spine of this vertical of power. Because that was who he belongs to. He belonged and still belongs to his former KGB officer, but they say, as never former officers in KGB. So he started creating Russia's vertical of power made of siloviki, state agencies with power to violence. They were becoming more and more obedient, those government branches and offices. They were becoming Putin's people. And after that, the war on oligarchs was declared. First, oligarch victims, fell. The very same people who created Vladimir Putin. Boris Berezovsky was ousted to the UK. Oligarch Gusinsky, the owner of NTV TV station, was arrested and fled Russia, never to be seen in Russia again. Then Putin's people started seizing oligarchs' assets left or right. And again, the war on oligarchs was declared. Mikhail Khodorkovsky also fell a victim of that war, and his assets were taken away from him. He ended up having a prison term and spending 10 years in prison. Okay, Putin's people got hold of Yukos. Yukos later became Rosneft, gargantuan oil company, one of the biggest in the world, that belongs to Putin's right-hand man right now. Some oligarchs were also made Putin's assets. Okay, Putin used carrot and stick principle on them. So he was punishing one oligarchs and he was giving carrots to other ones. Potanin, Lysin, Abramovich, Ivan Friedman, and others gave up all independence. They gave up political conditions and they stepped away from Putin's way, and they stopped playing a significant role in the political life of Russian Federation. They basically were let to continue owning their businesses and move some money outside Russia, to foreign countries where they could hide them. Of course, they moved all their families, the companies outside Russia, and basically they lived outside and just used Russia as a way of, making money, using it as a resource. And the new oligarchs, were emerging in Russia. And those oligarchs were strong men in the vertical of power, siloviki. You see different agencies, government agencies, who could use violence against Russian citizens, such as KGB, police, army, Rosgvardia, Federal Reserves, riot police. They started becoming rich. They started using their positions to enrich themselves. They started using illegal ways of seizing businesses, basically stealing businesses, throw people into jails, and taking away what people owned. They started stealing from the government, from the budget of Russian Federation, and a new term emerged, and one of the foreigners actually gave this new term, created this new term. It's called powergarchs or silogarchs, siloviki, silogarchs. Used to be oligarchs, now they're powergarchs. Today, 40% of Russia's riches are owned by powergarchs. They are, again, KGB generals, governors, big politicians, senators, police generals, army high command, etc. In 2019, the process of finishing off all oligarchs and creating powergarchs was finished, and Vladimir Putin had complete control over all oligarchs, the remaining ones. And he basically boldly stated in an interview in 2019 that there are no oligarchs in Russia anymore, no left. Well, he was right in some way, because if we think of those old oligarchs, the independent ones, the full of energy, full of money, just trying to get as much political influence in Russia as possible, creating their private armies, security, they called security companies, those oligarchs are no more, even Putin's fairly close friends, Aven and Friedman, owners of Alfa Bank, one of Russia's biggest banks, they fled Russia right at the start of the war with Ukraine in February of 2022, and they don't want to come back. So those oligarchs no more, but all Russian riches belong to different clans, different people, those who can use violence against Russian citizens. The new class of rulers, the new class of, can't call them politicians, but the new class of state managers who manage life in Russia now. Old oligarchs still exist, but the rumors have it they're just cash cows. Their properties do not belong to them. They're just cash cows for, Putin's people, the generals, the siloviki, and most likely property belongs to different people, and those old oligarchs such as Yeltsin and such, they are just left as heads of their old companies just to keep the picture fairly clean for the outsiders, and they probably benefit financially, but they're not the owners anymore. So going back, remember I said that before, in old Russia, in the Russia of 90s, money could buy you power. That has completely changed 180 degrees. Now, in today's Putin's Russia, power creates money. Money is a function of power. Power is primarily, and money is secondary. You get power, money comes with power. You get a high position in government's office someplace. You got certain position in KGB, in the army, in the police force, in the Rosguardia, money comes with it. You become a governor, you have zero political independence, zero political power, but you have plenty of money. So power, the position buys you money now. Very different from what Russia used to be. So no more old Russia. Let's say this new country is born, and I can't even call it Russia. It's something else. You're gonna call it differently. I don't know how, it doesn't have a name yet, but it's not Russia anymore. So, going back to the question, can the oligarchs, who suffer so much because of the war in Ukraine, affects them, their families are kicked out, some of them at least, kicked out of the countries where they had lived for a long time and feeling absolutely comfortable. Their bank accounts gets frozen, their businesses are somewhat destroyed, the money flow is interrupted, they have to return the yachts to Russia, they just can't fly anywhere because the planes will be confiscated. Can the oligarchs become the force that would actually be strong enough to change the regime, to dethrone Putin, okay? To place someone in his place, or just, to call for an early elections? I think not. Because there are no oligarchs who are truly independent and powerful left in Russia. Like I just said, the ones are left are most likely puppets, and they are controlled by certain government office branches, government offices. Oligarchs do not have a right to apply violence to Russian citizens, but Siloviki do. And they can apply violence to Russian oligarchs. What you're gonna do if a court issues an order to arrest your company, or to freeze your accounts, or a criminal investigation is open. You can't go and, by court's decision because, it's already been arranged, if you know what I mean. So the oligarchs are not independent and they're not powerful. They're not free. So therefore, there's no way they can stage a coup. There's no way they can rebel. There's no way they can do a mutiny. They cannot revolt. The rise of the oligarchs was in the 90s, and actually the entire 90s. And their fall started in the year of 2000, right on the first day of the year 2000, when Vladimir Putin stepped into Russia's president's office. And now, Russian oligarchs are pretty much done. What I can tell you is that do not mistake the old oligarchs and the new ones. I'm not saying that an attempt cannot be made and will not be made. We just saw 2 months ago that some new oligarch, you could call him Silagarch, Yevgeny Prigozhin, staged a very successful mutiny. And had he gone a little farther, most likely he'd still be alive today, and he'd be in a very different place. And that showed that there are plenty of other people that can take some actions that would make big changes, in the current state of things. But that would not be old Russian oligarchs. Folks, I hope you understand Russian history a little better. I hope you understand how Russian society was formed in the early 90s and how oligarchs were born. I understand I hope you understand their rise and their fall and why they fell. If you would like to ask me any questions, I invite everyone into a live stream chat. I'll be answering questions there. Before I finish the message, I'll tell you this. Folks, Russia is a prime example of how people, not the government, but regular people, the voters and taxpayers, could make mistake after mistake after mistake. I don't know how many mistakes, big and small, have been made in the past 33 years, 32 years. Thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. And I just want to tell you one thing. Don't make your own mistakes. Learn from ours. Please do not let your government get out of control. Do not let your government go unchecked. That's not going to be good for you. That's what happened in Russia, and look where we are at now. Please learn from our mistakes. Don't make your own. Thank you so much. Message is done for today. Before I turn the live stream on, I'd like to apologize. I missed a couple live streams. Bad headache. I'm sorry. I apologize. I missed. Just bad headache. You know, migraine or something. I did some medical checks, and I'm not gonna die, but I just couldn't do it. Anyway, thank you so very much. And I'd like to invite everyone to live stream chat. It's fantastic to be back in streaming. I think I'm addicted to doing YouTube, to doing streaming, because I enjoy it so much, and I miss every time I go without stream. Thank you. Invite everyone into the live stream chat. Thank you so much. It's on. Fantastic to see the mods. Lorna, Mommy, howdy, I missed you. Bob S, Harry, Prince Amir, and the usual suspects, of course. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming back and giving me another chance. Thank you so much. Thanks for waiting for me to feel better. Thank you, Mike was off again. You know, I'm having problems with Mike. I'm sorry if this one doesn't work. It's on and off. Sometimes I can't figure out what's going on. I hope you can hear me well. You know, there's an echo, but there's not much I can do. I'll be fixing it tomorrow. Folks, if you want me to notice your message easier, please put it in caps and put inside Russia after @ so it's I don't know what's clicking. I have no clue. So put inside Russia after @ so it appears highlighted in a large orange box. Thank you so much. Eileen, thank you so much. Love those history lessons. I find this particular lesson very important because it kind of shows you the roots of Russia's problems. It shows you the time and the way how Russia started making wrong steps. Thank you. Yes, folks, I know wrong microphone. It's not wrong. It's one of the 2 microphones. It's just this one I'm having difficulties with. That's all. Andrew, thank you so much. Amir, there's not to check, not much to check. That's the best I can do. Just Terry, I have no clue what was that clicking sound during the stream. I didn't hear any. Keith from Hawaii, howdy. Bob Brennan. Brian Crook, thank you so much. I am feeling much better. I'm feeling 100%. Freak of a migraine. I don't know. It happened for the third time since I moved to Uzbekistan. I don't have like anything bad. I don't have any tumors or anything I checked. I think that's lack of sleep, lots of stress, perhaps high blood pressure, things like that. So my question in caps. Thank you, Sam. That's a good one. Ultimate power. Yeah. Dan Caldwell, I always wondered how they got their power and money. Thanks for the history. Like I said, they got the money first and they bought their power. But they made a wrong bet. Well, they made a bet on the wrong person, Vladimir Putin. He became the president, he became the most powerful out of them all, and he stripped them out of their power, both power and money. They got tricked. Well, I don't really feel bad for them. I feel bad for Putin becoming so powerful, but I don't feel bad for the guys. Kevin Baker, real estate team, thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it very much. Just Terry, so that is why you would say if Russian have a great business, it gets taken away. That's exactly why I say. I give you two examples. Look, I work at a large company and a large contractor, general contractor. I think you all know what is a large general contractor is. We built big power plants, 150 megawatts, 200 megawatts, $200 million contract, $300 million contract. Our annual revenue is $1 billion in 2011, I believe. $1 billion. Besides power plants, we build tons of high voltage substations, GIS substations, open air substations. Those are expensive too. 500 kilovolt, huge ones, very expensive ones. So at the same time, we're not a public, we're a private company, and we try to keep a low profile. $1 billion per year. We try to keep low profile. And I was in charge of business development, and a large television channel, RBK TV, contacts me and says, look, we know that you finished a power plant, and we built a plant. We started manufacturing high voltage equipment. It was a joint venture with, back then it was a company called Alstom, and now it was bought by General Electric, American General Electric. So we're big. People know us. We're very, very known in the industry, and yet we maintain low profile. So I arranged the interview for the owner of the company, one of two owners of the company. He goes live in front of the entire country. And, the interview is finished. We get into his car. The driver is chauffeuring us, back to the office. And one of the questions in the interview, a lady who was asking questions, she said, look, How is possible? Your revenue is $1 billion per year. You're among world's top companies. You're so known in the energy sector. Why no one knows anything about you? Why you aren't a household name? You can be. Why is this so? And the owner of the company, that's 2011, I think. Yes, that was definitely 2011. So he says, well, the people in the industry, they know us. That's enough. That was a very modest answer. And we're in the car, and I asked him, I said, look, how is this, like, she's right. We need to be more public. We need to, make more information about us available. Let's invest. I mean, what's the website? How much money do we need to invest into a website? We have $1 billion revenue. We having great profits, right? I said, look, it doesn't take long. Let's invest like $20,000 into a website, corporate website. Let's do a series of interviews. Let's have some advertising in newspapers. And I present him a plan. I said that it's not going to cost us much, peanuts for the company. And he says, you know what? We actually don't want to do that. He meant himself and another shareholder, because of a privately owned company. He said, we don't want to do that. We want to maintain as low profile as possible, because some KGB general wakes up one morning, goes on TV, reads a newspaper and goes, whoa, look at this company. I've never heard of it. I have a son and he's looking for something like that, just like that. So he says that, we'll get a call and things would get much worse for us, okay? And we don't need that. That's why we don't want to make it big in terms of, popularity, not popularity, popularity. And that was his answer, 2011. And the guy was absolutely right. I understand how wise he had been with his partner. And I started a few companies. The latest company was 1216. And I, with one of the guys that, I knew for a long time, we started a marketplace for soft commodities. And we had this huge product. It's great product with like great features. And we were absolutely sure it would be a success. And guess what the first thing we started discussing? How could we secure it from KGB? Not just, we weren't trying to do something illegal, but possibilities of that marketplace were just so fantastic. We could be making lots of money. And the first thing they would do is they would knock on our door and just take it away from us, okay? So the first thing we did, we flew to Switzerland and we created a company. We created an agreement, partnership agreement in Switzerland, according to the Swiss law. So, they couldn't take it away from us. So it was interesting. That's just telling you how things in Russia worked back then. Right now, it's much worse. Right now, there's no freedom of doing business whatsoever. So, Dig, thank you so much. Change your microphone, not good. One working at ATM. Continue good work. Well, thank you so much. All right. You know what? Since the mic is not doing well today, then I'm just gonna wrap it up. I will pray, good or bad mic, and hopefully I will come back with a good mic tomorrow. Galaxy Rider, thank you so much, and thank you for being the sponsor for 15 months, thank you. Jonathan O'Peel, what happens if Putin dies? A series of events will happen, and that's a topic for a different stream. Sharpest microphone time. Here you find, says Karen. No, I don't understand. Some people don't hear me, some people do. Joe's Rames, the birthday party was real nice. Thanks for letting us share it with you. Thank you. I had a little headache after, but nothing major. And then today I'm feeling fine. But the party was great, yes. Thank you. Rest, please. Keith from Hawaii, you know, one of those 2 days I missed the stream. Actually, for one entire day, all I did was sleep. So I slept enough. Thank you. 4x4, that's a good one. Paula W, excellent question. You often say we should keep close tabs on our government. Do you really think the Russian people could have done anything to make things better in Russia in the 90s? I give an example. You know, the Germans did much better. The Czech did much better. The Polish did much better. The Hungarian, the Romanian, the Bulgarian, they did so much better. Look even at the Baltics countries, you know, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, they did much better. Yes, Russian people could have done a thing or two to actually do much better job organizing their lives, because it was up to us, Russian people, in the 90s to actually create our lives from scratch. We had a unique opportunity to create anything we wanted out of Russia. 91, 92, 93 were the years of, I would say they were tabula rasa, if you know what I mean. Wonder if oligarchs got their MTV. It's a good one. Will do. Thank you so much. Ted Paul, thank you. I will do. Robert Whip. Russia is such a beautiful country, unfortunately with the wrong leadership. There's much to talk about that. That's going to be more streams. Look, what I'm going to do, if sound is really terrible, I'll check after the stream. I will probably make a video of this and upload it as an independent one. Tomorrow and day after tomorrow, most likely, instead of streams, I will just upload videos because I have tons of errands to do with Michael. Michael's starting first grade, but not on the 1st of September, as in Russia. On the 4th, and there's just tons of stuff. We need to do a lot of red tape for him, running around with Natasha and the girls, and for the girls too. So I don't promise, most likely I will upload videos instead of live streams on Thursday and on Friday. There will definitely be a live stream on Saturday because it's a day off, you know, and we'll have everything finished in terms of red tape by the time, and definitely stream on Sunday, and then the usual everyday schedule for the rest of the month of September, I hope. So again, thank you so very much. I hope you found this message interesting. I did find it very fascinating when I looked at the history of Russian oligarchs. You know, it's kind of difficult to look at it once you don't study, you don't analyze, and you don't try to look at the entire 30-year period in Russia. But once you start digging into it, you get a view from afar, so to speak, and you go, wow, what the heck, how could that happen? And then it's very enlightening to start analyzing these things. Anyway, thank you. I would like to invite everyone to pray with me. If you're religious, please do. If you're not religious, please come and join us pray anyway. You can call it differently, any way you like it. sending people vibes, sending good wishes, sending good energy, doesn't matter. To me, it's the same thing. So please join me in prayer. Dear Lord Jesus Christ, please forgive us for our sins. Thank you very much for everything that you've given us. Thank you for the food that you've placed on our tables. Thank you for the roofs that you've given over our heads. Thank you for the people who we love and who love us that you've surrounded us with. Please give us wisdom to keep the skies above our children's heads peaceful. Give us wisdom to raise our children the way that when they grow adults, they will never fight in any wars, and they will do a better job running this world, and they will make this world a better place. For now, please keep our children safe and healthy. Dear Lord, please help stop the bloodshed in Ukraine. The country and people have suffered so much, and it just needs to stop. Please reach out and touch the hearts and souls of those responsible and capable of making the decision. Do whatever is necessary and important to be done, so they wake up from their lethargic sleep and they will understand what has happened, what they have done, and they will make the decision to stop the bloodshed. Please do that as soon as possible. Please help every single Ukrainian who has been affected by this terrible tragedy. Answer their prayers, make their wishes come true, soothe their souls, please. Send them angels, so the angels keep people away from harm's way. Dear Lord, please help my country, Russia. Assemble an army of your strongest angels with sharpest swords, led by Saint Michael, and send it like avalanche down to earth to get rid of the demons who have hijacked my country. Dear Lord, please have angels run my country. Have them make Russia peaceful, respectful, loved, and loving. Dear Lord, please send help to the ones who are traveling, send them safe travels, and the ones who are seeking asylum, send help their way, especially families. Please help everyone who is suffering from Russian strikes in Ukraine. Please help all single mothers who are struggling, making ends meet, bringing up their children. Please send help their way too. Help the homeless, the jobless, the hungry, the sick, the addicted, the depressed, the ones with low self-esteem, the ones who are losing faith. Please shine your light upon them, surround them in your warmth, and fill their hearts with love so they feel better about themselves and about their lives. They will have more energy to stand up on their feet, and they will have chances of making their lives great and warm and loving and healthy again. Dear Lord, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to come together into this community and pray together. Thank you. Please help everyone who is praying along with me or simply watching us pray. Make everyone's wish come true, and answer everyone's prayer. Thank you. Dear Lord, I would like to ask for a few people who need your help. They are Yelena, Natasha, Jake, Michael, Oля, Dasha, Sky, Bonnie Svetlana, Michael Milkevitz, Paul Binz, Mallory M, Angelica Life, Richard Burris, Harry's family, Rafaela Fromm, Allison Dave Moyers, Mr. Dean Spooner and his church called Our Savior Lutheran Church, EMS paramedic Liz, Susie Mailer, Grace Philosophy, Lisa Cumbrian, Karen, Lori Miles' husband, Ann Larson, her family and daughter Hannah, Amir's uncle Dicky, Patty L, Liz Dumbrell and her relatives, Darla, Bib, White Lightning, George Ruberty and Dave Strains, Frank in Texas, Julie W, Linda Trombley, James Gens, Heather, Jason Corner, Janice Stevenson, Jay Spike, Jen Allen, The Highwayman, David Porter, his family, and everyone from Chernovtsi, Ukraine, Susan Marshall, Jolie McMahon, Meta Spencer, Leif, Pamela J, Michael Yukon, and dear Lord, I would like to ask you for a very special child, well, two very special children, a little girl, Sarah, who is fighting for her life. Thank you for helping her, and please continue to help. Send your angels and send her full recovery. Help her children, help her parents who are praying day and night. Answer their prayers and give them strength. And I'd like to ask for Coulter. Thank you for helping him, and he still needs your help. Please help him and his parents to get through hard time. Also, please, all the children from Ukraine who have been displaced and affected by this terrible tragedy, send them your angels. Do not leave them. Be with them at all times, and please help them. Thank you so much, dear Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. My friends, thank you. Thank you so much. Fantastic to be back. You know, those days that I missed, it's actually, I missed you, and I missed streaming. I guess I'm addicted to streaming. I want to say that you're absolutely awesome and you rock. Thank you for giving me a chance. It's an honor. And I will either see you tomorrow in a stream, or I will be doing and uploading a video. Either way, I'll let you know tomorrow, depending how things go. I am planning on making another video tomorrow on economy and on what has happened to Prigozhin, because things are getting interested. Well, continue being interested. His burial, they buried him, you know, but it was a scandal, and it showed once more how insecure Putin is, how insecure Russian government is, and what's truly happening is madness. I will definitely cover that. I also would like to give you some crazy news update on Friday, so please keep on tuning in. Thank you so much, and before I sign off, as usual, I would like to ask you to say along with me as loud as you can. Carthago delenda est.